Germany's next leader is signaling a shift toward independence from the U.S. The conservative opposition party won the most votes for the country's national election, unseating the current chancellor's Social Democrats party. Meanwhile, the Alternative for Germany party won the most votes for a far-right party since World War II. Now, conservative leader Friedrich Merz says he hopes to put a coalition together by Easter. Let's bring in ABC's Ines de La Cuetara along with ABC News national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy for more. And as President Trump congratulated the Conservative Party on social media, saying, quote, "Much like the USA, the people of Germany got tired of the no common sense agenda, especially on energy and immigration, that has prevailed for so many years." But the party's leader says Trump's recent statements make it clear the administration is indifferent to the fate of Europe. So what's the latest on this election and what it means for U.S.-Germany relations?
Yeah, Diane, so it's been interesting to see how the U.S. has played into these elections. You had members of the Trump administration signaling support for the AfD. But when it comes to the conservatives that came out on top here, their leader, Friedrich Merz, has been critical of Trump. So he is pro-Ukraine, pro-NATO. Recently, he's been critical of Trump's outreach to Russia. He wants Europe to take on more of a leading role here. And like you mentioned, some interesting comments there from Merz last night when he said that Europe must try to achieve independence from the U.S., that the U.S. doesn't seem to care about the fate of Europe. Harsh words there from the man who will likely soon be leading one of the U.S.'s biggest allies.
Now, Mick Mulroy is also talking about the NATO summit at the end of June, saying he's curious whether he'll still be talking about NATO in its current form by then, or whether Europe will have to establish an independent defense capability. How would that work, and how real is that possibility?
So, Diane, this has been talked about for a long time, but obviously the statements by the Trump administration on the future of NATO has rattled a lot of our European partners. Just to give you an example, Germany's army is about 64,000 soldiers. The Russians in Ukraine, at the height of their casualty loss, were losing 30,000 casualties a week. So this is going to require a substantial investment by our European partners in their own security. Obviously, Germany is going to start that immediately. They're even talking about nuclear weapons and how they might need that, working with the UK and France, who already have nuclear weapons. This could be a sea change for Europe, not just to build up their military capacity, but also to integrate it together so they can function as a cohesive military if that is needed. And that is something I think Merz is talking about quite a bit because of these recent statements by the Trump administration on NATO and favorable statements about Russia.
Now, and as Elon Musk and Vice President Vance both voiced support for the far-right Alternative for Germany party, what are the party's goals now, and what role could they play in a potential coalition?
So when it comes to a coalition, we're not expecting Merz to form a coalition with the AfD because of what's known as the firewall. So it's a policy where, since the end of World War II, there has been consensus among Germany's main political parties that the far right must never be allowed in government again. That being said, that firewall has at times been breached. There have been situations where some parties have been able to pass legislation by working with the far right to get their votes. That happened recently with immigration. But in terms of forming a government, we're not expecting Merz to try and form a coalition with them. We're expecting him to try and form a coalition with the Social Democrats, so that's Olaf Scholz, the former chancellor's party, but that could still take weeks of negotiating.
Mick, what do you make of that party doubling its support since the last elections?
So, of course, there's a lot of issues that go into elections just like they are here. On the national security side, obviously, we already discussed the concern about Europe having to go on its own and not being able to rely on the United States in the future, especially with the menace that is Russia right on the border of European countries like Poland. And of course, there's also issues like immigration, which plays a factor in national security. It did in the United States, and it obviously did in Germany. So this is something that I think one of the reasons why there's been so much focus on Germany, and one of the reasons why Germany is so focused on what they can do to increase their own capacity to defend themselves and not be so reliant on the NATO alliance, which they have in the past.
All right, Mick Mulroy and Ines de La Cuetara, thank you.